Gives me great pleasure to introduce our second keynote speaker today, Professor Ale Armellini from Portsmouth University. He is the Dean of Digital Education and Digital Innovation there, and he was previously Dean of Education at Northampton, and he is really well known for his service to the field. He's known all over these islands and Europe indeed for the work he's done on learning design, on digital innovation, on change management, on digital learning leadership, and particularly lots of things we hear a lot about, like active learning, and it sounds like a buzzword, active learning. What does that actually mean? But he's actually done a lot of detailed, in-depth research onto what that actually is. So you can see that, and his impact is attested to in the scholarly record. There's a great number of citations to his published work. And also he's known for just being a stand-up guy as well, I have to say. And I emailed him and I said, would you come and speak at the conference? And sent him this, "Dear Ale, Mr. President here." And he was straight back and he said, "Yeah, we would be honored to come and I would do panel or workshop, whatever you need." I was like, "No, just a talk, right?" And he brought that attitude with him here because he's always kind of willing to help me. He said, "Eamon, I can fix your car for you." He said, "I'm an expert in Japanese cars." And I said, "Ale, many have tried and failed. Off you go." And it was like Icarus flying towards the sun. So I hope your keynote is better than your attempt to fix my car. Yes, Jen, but what it showed, Jen, I think you'll be the witness, you'll be our eyewitness, is his curiosity that he brings to things, his willingness to change things, to try things, to help others. And I need a better car, the willingness to help others. But really what Ale is about as well, he's not trying to fix the car, he's trying to create the conditions that allow us to change. He's a change leader. He's not saying we're going to future-proof education. There's not some quick solution. It's about the process, and that's what he brings. So we're delighted to welcome Professor Armellini to give our opening keynote today.
Great. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, everyone. And big thanks to Eamon, to Peter and the team for inviting me here. Just a couple of things about this morning. You are welcome to interrupt throughout. You don't need to wait until the end to ask things or to heckle or to express your horror. You will not necessarily agree with everything I'm about to say, but I'm giving you an opportunity to interact throughout if that's what you want. I decided to call this presentation Beyond the Myth of Future-Proofing. And there are 4 areas that I want to cover in this keynote, which are there. The future-proofing fallacy, learning in a modern university, the game changer. What's that? You'll guess. And I wanted to refer briefly at the end to Portsmouth Alternative Assessments Pilot, which brings the above 3 in a way together. So for context, I'm sure you are very, very good at geography, but just for context, that's where we are. Yeah. Portsmouth is actually a city on an island. The island is called Portsea Island. Around about 250,000 inhabitants. That's where the university is. It's an urban campus. So the first area I wanted to cover is that. That's a possible definition of future-proofing, yeah? And one of the questions, or 2 of the questions I want to consider today is that really doable? Is that what we want to do? And if so, what's the shelf life? For how long? So let's begin to think about this. if you look at your own university websites, in Ireland, in the UK, in other places, you'll find some rather interesting references to what learning and teaching looks like in those universities. What we mean by the learning experience. And you'll find words like that. My personal favorite is unique. Apparently, all 150 UK universities offer unique. Well, I've worked at 5 of them, and I can tell you otherwise. Although maybe Edinburgh is very unique, of course. Brownie points. Yeah. Future-proof your life, and so forth. That's my comment. So, if you forget everything else I say this morning, I would like you to remember these things. Just forget everything else. Let's focus on one thing and one thing only, which is what our students expect of us, which is what we're here to do. Teach well, consistently well, every student, every session, every time. And that is particularly true of post-92 universities in the UK. That's why they exist. So, anything else that you hear today, feel free to forget that. Remember this, okay? Within that, and of course we need to unpack and unpick this, one bit that I always stress is that we are not the Royal Mail, we are not Amazon, we don't deliver, we teach. So all of these narratives around my module is delivered, I deliver this, I deliver that, I deliver the content. That's a narrative that we are trying to move away from at Portsmouth. There's nothing wrong with the verb to teach, particularly if you teach well, consistently well. The list on the right is just a set of attributes, a set of features that we link to the notion of ABL, or active blended learning. Of course, my favorite is the top one, teach versus deliver, but there's a lot of other bullet points there for us to reflect on and to consider. We will cover some of those today. I do want to share a short definition of what teach well means at Portsmouth. That's what it means. That's, give or take a few words, that's roughly what we think and what we follow when we say at Portsmouth, teaching well means X. Well, this is X. So what does learning at Portsmouth look like? Or in general, what does learning in a modern university look like? And again, we bump into hundreds of potential definitions, concepts, articulations of that. This is one of them. So what does that definition encompass? First, it addresses the what. Second, it addresses the how. Then it goes on to the when. It addresses the why. And very critically, it addresses the with whom. Of course, there is also a where. So again, looking into what we mean by all of these wonderful notions, it is absolutely critical to define them, to express, to consult on them, and to discuss with colleagues what we actually mean by these things. This is our attempt to do that with our academic community. You will notice that up here we have this critical verb, engage. And yes, you guessed it, we have to define that too. What does that mean? How do we measure it? How should we not measure it? Yeah. So one of the controversial things is that the narrative these days, and in the past few years, if you like, the orthodoxy is, oh, students must engage with us. We have to treat them as equals. We have to co-create, all of which is fantastic. Except that many of them tell us loud and clear, I'm not here to engage with you, I'm not here to co-create with you, I'm here to be taught. What do we do about that? This is not a particular case at the University of Portsmouth. This is, I don't know if you know that this week, finishing yesterday, the Students as Partners conference took place in Plymouth. And this was part of the conversation. Lots of colleagues saying, oh, engagement, and they sort of force feed you engagement, and they force feed their students that word. Many of them will, many of them won't, and they say that loud and clear. I'm not here to co-create my assessment rubric with you. Don't mess about with me, sort of thing, yeah? So, engagement. Possible way to define that is this. And there are some words in there which reflect the components of engagement. So you'll find things like resilience. You'll find things like reflection, sense of purpose, and so forth. So clearly, engagement and the metrics for engagement that we use in the UK may partly cover this, but certainly not all of it. My point here is that a lot of my colleagues complain, moan about the absence of all of these things, or the absence of student engagement as a concept generally. And very often what happens is they forget about their own engagement. So my point to you is this. Don't moan. Engage yourself. We can't complain about others' engagement if we're not engaged ourselves. Can you quantify and qualify your own engagement? How do you do that? Are you sure you remain active and visible throughout your course? And when you dig deep into these things, you find that many of our colleagues do, many of our colleagues don't. And they set the task and disappear. That's what we're trying to address in our new education strategy, in our new guidance, in our new staff development, staff engagement for student engagement. So colleagues, so far I've addressed 3 things. Those 3. This is my little knowledge check. Yeah. So just to make sure you are with me still and you haven't fallen asleep. The myth of future-proofing, teaching well, consistently well, and think about our own active engagement for greater student engagement. That's what we are talking about. And how do we turn this into some sort of practical advice, or what does that mean in terms, for example, of CPD? Well, you may have heard of words like Carpe Diem, ABC, Cairo, and so forth. Well, at Portsmouth, we do exactly that in the form of Enable. Enable is our team approach to learning design in a fun, in a safe space. Yeah? It is the amalgamation of all of the previous 2.5 decades of research into such interventions. team-based approaches to learn and design. This is when we once had the luxury at the University of Northampton to have an artist in residence. She captured the process beautifully, and that image is still on the wall of one of my ex-colleagues at Northampton. What do we do during an Enable workshop? We do lots of things. Those are some of them. That's an actual picture of a recent Enable. But if we, again, forget everything else, the key things, the key deliverables are those. Yeah, those are the things we cannot miss. The storyboard, a visual representation of my module of my course. Enable operates at both levels. By course, I mean program. And a number of sample formative activities. So that was scaled up at Northampton for the entire university. That is being scaled up at Portsmouth for the entire university. Then I said, I'd like to address the game changer. And of course, the game changer is Gen AI. And we've been talking about that for the whole of yesterday. My question to you would be, do you have an email strategy? Do you remember those? Those of you who have been around the block long enough, you might remember. Ken, do you remember this?
What's email?
Late 90s, email was taking the academic world or the world by storm, and everybody wanted an email strategy. Yeah? Many of us still remember those. Within a few years, less than that, those strategies sort of disappeared. So, do we want an AI strategy, or do we want other strategies where AI is a major component? The jury is out. I have my views. You probably have yours. Second point. Are we using or being used by this? To ponder. Third point. There are some benefits. Lots of which have been discussed in multiple sessions yesterday, which I think we all agree. Takes a lot of the heavy lifting of the drudgery of out of admin, freeing up time for more valuable stuff. Yeah, and the gap, as I see it, is one of confidence, how to use tools. And there are thousands of tools, thousands of them, and there is a gap in mindset, moving from here to this new ecosystem. So what's a takeaway? Let's invest in AI competence and ideally fluency, not just literacy. Let's not stop at the literacy point. I'll go a little deeper into that in a moment. But two key things to remember from this. One is AI is the pocket calculator of the 70s. And two, this is the worst AI you'll ever see, which answers, from my perspective, the question of the theme of this event. Are we there yet? No, I probably won't be anytime soon. I'm borrowing the second phrase. I didn't coin that, of course. I'm borrowing it from an author I would very much encourage you to consider in your own reading, Ethan Mollick. So if you haven't come across him, please have a look. He's very active on LinkedIn, but he's published a few books. And this is from one of those books. This is the worst, you'll see. Remember, when ChatGPT first came out, a lot of people thought this was the best thing since sliced bread. move forward 2.5 years, and look where we are now. And this is still the worst, you'll see. So, identifying gaps. I'll show you on the right side a matrix in a moment. My question to you is, how do you assess your own and your team's AI skills and gaps against that matrix? And which zone provides the best fit for you and your team? The matrix looks like that. So, unaware and unconcerned, curious but cautious, or downright fearful, excited but unskilled, confident and capable. So, are most of your team members in 1 or 2? So really, it's a mindset shift. You can use AI skills as leverage to build confidence. So let me return to the literacy, competency, fluency discussion. We have the 3 there, and what I mean by each of those is that with support, I can select and use certain tools, maybe AI tools. I can enhance my teaching by using a range of tools autonomously in the middle. And the 3rd, fluency, I can lead transformation. So let's shrink that into my basic knowledge and understanding, my practice, and leadership. Even more when applied to AI. Okay? But I like short versions of things, so I decided to squeeze that into a single word under each. So that's where I ended up. So to reflect on this part of today's conversation. Do we want ourselves, our colleagues, our teams on the academic side and on the professional services side to become AI experts? I argue we don't. We do need to become at least confident, preferably fluent. Are we shaping the change, or are we letting it shape us? So in the interest of taking that into yet another level of a very sort of pragmatic, practical approach, I said I would cover the assessment pilot at Portsmouth. The context here is that the pilot almost gave my academic registrar a fit. She almost collapsed when she heard what we were about to do. But we did it, and we're about to finish it because we are in the middle of the May assessment period. And what the pilot does is it enables us to operate outside of the rules to try things that otherwise would be illegal, right? And I'll show you a couple of examples of this, but there are many more. Key principle here that on which the assessment pilot is grounded is this. If the assessment task invites academic misconduct, forget AI, forget it that for the moment. We'll come back in a moment. But if it invites misconduct, then redesign it. That is the principle. So this pilot gave colleagues a chance to move away from disguising what they were doing as a portfolio. Yeah? Because the strategy is, let's put anything we want into this bag. Let's call it a portfolio, and then the quality unit will not mess with us. Right? The idea here was to become transparent, to go open with this, and to show what sort of things people were doing that were deemed illegal by the university. What were the aims then? Well, to enable students to play to their strengths. In short, that was that. Yeah? There was some flexibility around traditional assessment norms and regulations, and the second was all about authenticity, authentic assessment. Aligning what we do in assessment in the university with what they are likely to find in the workplace. Right? So, a few principles that guided us to achieve these aims. 4 principles. The first, it is not possible to design AI out of most modes of assessment, even if we wanted to, which we don't. This assessment pilot was very much on the embrace camp rather than the ban camp. So colleagues created assessments that deliberately offered students opportunities to meaningfully use AI in their work. Second, we know that asynchronous work is more exposed, more open to the use of AI. We know that, and we took that into account, and colleagues did. Thirdly, we design, redesign, and co-design summative assessments for authenticity, as I said before, creativity, credibility, and rigor. We aim to embrace rather than reject tools. And finally, controversially perhaps for some, we aim for a balanced diet and a meaningful interplay between synchronous and asynchronous components. Why controversial? Why difficult? Why we had to have many honest conversations with colleagues about this? Well, because synchronicity means at least same time, very often same place. And I declare I'm a fan of oral exams. Many colleagues strongly disagree with me, and they have their good reasons. My argument is, if we want to reflect what these students are going to encounter in the workplace, we have to give that some space, much more significant than the role that oral exams play today. And as you know, a lot of institutions worldwide have shifted a little bit in that direction in the last couple of years. So, a couple of questions for you. Take a look. No straight answers here, no clear answers. Is AI in summative assessment like athletes taking performance-enhancing drugs or gear? And the answer is, the correct answer is likely to be, it depends. It depends on how, when, why, what. It gets more complicated, much more complicated than that. So, for example, look at those. Tricky. In the pilot, we embarked on an assessment redesign journey with colleagues as teams. We had something on the left, whatever the current strategy was, and on the right, we had the 3 elements of authenticity, innovation, and choice. Assessment choice, where students could choose assessment instruments without compromising rigor, quality, or standards. So, for example, you could say, at the moment we're doing all of these things on the left. You're being asked to do any 2 of the following. Write it, say it, report it, podcast it, draw it, poster it, poem it, sing it, perform it, present it, defend it, act it, AI it, or whatever you like. This is an extreme example, but a possibility. In practice, this translated more into something like that. So you have to choose any one from each column, right? This doesn't mean that the original assessment strategy, as per the course description, was removed. On the contrary, students could stick to that or choose the alternative. This table captures the size. So we had 1,000 students, nearly 1,000 students, 18 modules, 22 assessments. And we had, well, so far, because this is not finished, we had a mixed economy of choice. On some modules, the majority chose the option, the alternative. On some modules, the majority chose the original assessment. And we had a big bunch, a big lot in the middle, where we were more or less in a 50-50. So some students actually chose the original exam. The argument is, I do well in exams. Don't take it away from me. No, we're not taking it away from you. We're giving you the option. They stayed where they were. Whereas others went into all these other creative, authentic, and otherwise co-created instruments. I wanted to also mention the policy at, for example, the University of Copenhagen. I work a lot with them, particularly with that faculty, the science faculty. So from September this year, the policy will, by default, the default position is all AI allowed, unless otherwise stated at course level, or even at module level. So that's the approach they took. This is a U-turn from the policy they had before, in which the default position was the opposite. The default is no AI allowed unless otherwise stated. So they quickly realized that they were not going to get anywhere with that. So, to begin to wrap up, I want to give you a little bit of an exercise, if I may. When we look at these things and when we shape our own stance at Portsmouth, we need to consider what colleagues, where they are, bring them with us in the change process, on the journey. And one way of doing that is to create meaningful CPD opportunities for them to take part in their own rethinking, in their own engagement, in their own redesign. So we created, Simon Brooks, Dean of the Faculty of Cultural Industries, and I created that matrix. That matrix has, by now you may have realized that I quite like 2x2 matrices. But here we've got, as you can see, no obvious reference to AI. But we have a misconduct risk axis and an innovation risk axis. And we have 4 quadrants. So if you take 15 seconds to think, where is your practice here? Most of the times it will sort of overlap. And most of the times, I'm not sure. For that module, I'm fairly traditional. For that module, I'm more risky. I want to take a few risks on that. But think, what are you doing at the moment in your own teaching? What are your colleagues doing? I've got lots of colleagues from different faculties at Portsmouth, where the assessment today is a one-liner. Write 3,000 words on X. And X can be anything you can imagine. Where would you put that on this matrix? It's very traditional and it's very risky. Yeah? So that's one example. I tell you, it gets really complicated to shift to there. Very, very complicated. So when I've asked groups like you to map their own practices against that, what do I get? So that's the original. Yeah? On the left-hand side, you're going to see some practices. So that's what I've got so far. By no means comprehensive, but it is a taster of what I'm getting as a reply from my colleagues. The essay in the top left. The sit-down exam, same time, same place, bottom left. An AI-generated poster and the prompt used to create that poster, and perhaps the iterations that the students had to use to get to the final product is the top right. It is risky. It is exposed to things. But that's what people are doing. Research proposal plus reflective commentary plus mini viva. And some of my colleagues panic at that. And they cite things like very difficult to organize, time consuming, and all the rest of it, all of which, well, they have a point. So that's what I'm getting in response. Does anyone, no pressure, does anyone want to share where they are at the moment? Oh, you've got a hand up going there. Please, yes.
Well, in the sciences, we're largely in the research proposals in the third year and fourth year of our programs.
Yeah.